Tuning into podcast number 61 of Sports Talk with JWock. I am your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and today we've got a bit of an interesting episode where the NBA offseason has been kicked off. And by the way, before I start this episode, shout out to my uncle for giving me this idea of this episode. The last episode, I had an interactive episode talking about basically what I should do for the future, and this is one episode he wanted to hear, so shout out to my Uncle Ken for giving me this idea. But anyways, let's get right into this episode where I'm going to be talking about two big winners from this NBA free agency. Now, I'm not going to be really talking about like trades that happened before, like before the draft or during the draft. I'm just going to be talking about like basically during the free agency period, what happened. Now, there were some trades that did happen in free agency, and I will be talking about one of those teams that did make a trade during the free agency period. But like I said, I'm not going to be talking about the trades that happened before free agency and the draft kind of thing. So this is just solely based off of what I think these teams did this free agency and how well they did overall. But overall, I think the first winner has to be the Denver Nuggets. And I know a lot of people are going to say this is biased. You're always talking good about the Nuggets. But I don't know how you can't say this team didn't win in free agency as of now. Now, let's talk about who they added and lost. So first, let's talk about who they lost. They lost Michael Porter Jr. via trade, as well as Dario Saric via trade. And then I would say they're going to lose Russell Westbrook. He's still a free agent, but I just don't see a world where he resigns. It's very possible, especially since, the Kings were the main suitor for Westbrook, but then they just recently, a couple weeks ago, added Dennis Schroeder. So we'll see how that pans out. But overall, the Nuggets lost a big piece in Michael Porter Jr., a player that was a crucial piece to their championship run a couple years back. But let's talk about who they added, because I think from that trade, they added a really good player that's going to help them now. So they added Bruce Brown, who was on the championship team when they won in 2022, I believe that was the year, and he was a crucial piece. They added Cam Johnson via the trade for the Michael Porter Jr. Trade overall, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically they did the Nuggets acquired Cam Johnson, and then they got rid of Michael Porter Jr. and a first-round pick, which is either for 2031 or 2032. So the Nuggets are going all in, adding Cam Johnson. They also added Tim Hardaway Jr. on just in free agency, and then they traded Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas just in a straight swap, which can get interesting because Jonas Valanciunas, there's been a lot of rumblings talking about how he still wants to potentially play in Greece. Even though the Nuggets have finalized the deal, there is still mutual interest between Jonas Valanciunas and playing for that Greece team instead of the Nuggets. Now, we don't know if that's 100% true or not, so we'll see. But I'm just going to guess right now that Jonas Valanciunas will play for the Nuggets, at least for this year. But overall, the Nuggets added much needed positional help. The Nuggets added a backup guard in Bruce Brown, not really a point guard type of role, but kind of a player that's just going to be able to play all around, kind of your Swiss Army knife, which I think they lost when they got rid of Bruce Brown in the first place. They added Cam Johnson, who I think is going to be a better fit around Jokic, a player that is more of a system fit compared to Michael Porter Jr., who needs to be kind of let off his leash and kind of go wild and play good offensively. So don't be surprised if Michael Porter Jr. Is a borderline all-star next year for the Brooklyn Nets, because he has more opportunities, not because he was just trash in Denver and Denver was just a bad atmosphere. It's just Michael Porter Jr. was playing under such a good system under Jokic and Jamal Murray. It kind of put him under the spotlight, or it kind of took him away from the spotlight, and now he's going to be under the spotlight in Brooklyn. So, but then they also added Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas, two very good depth players, which is something the Nuggets have been struggling with for years now. Ever since that championship run, one of the big question marks is this depth. Like, how are they going to be able to play without Jokic on the floor, without Jamal Murray on the floor? And I think adding all four of these players is really going to help them and take some relief off of these big stars, especially with Jonas Valanciunas. If he does decide to play in Denver, this is a good addition, because Jonas Valanciunas is going to be able to give some really good minutes when Jokic is off the floor. And they're going to be able to run a kind of similar offense. Obviously, you can't replicate Jokic completely, but Jonas Valanciunas will be able to fill in that role very well. And this Nuggets team, they could definitely be pushing for another championship this upcoming year. I think they're near close to the favorites, in my opinion. I still have the Thunder above them for now, but I think the Nuggets could be a close second. So shout out to the Nuggets having a great offseason. And then let's get to the second winner and the other winner that I have, which, by the way, before I go on to this next team, a lot of these teams I could have considered winners, but I'm talking about like the biggest winners. You know, like I know like certain teams, you know, like obviously spoiler alert, you know, the New York Knicks, they added Gershon Yabusele and Jordan Clarkson and essentially lost nothing. Like that's a great addition. That's going to help them win a championship now, but I just don't think it's as drastic of a winning, you know, offseason compared to these two teams. And let's get on to that second team though. Which is the Los Angeles Clippers, not the Lakers. Lakers fans think that, you know, DeAndre Ayton's going to take them to a championship. Good for you. You guys can get a gold star on your chest or whatnot. Congratulations, you got DeAndre Ayton. We're all scared. Not. Anyways, the Los Angeles Clippers added John Collins in a trade. They also added Brook Lopez, and just recently we got news that they're going to be signing Bradley Beal. And my light behind me is going nuts. The Clippers are definitely going to be a contending team in the West. They were a team that, if they didn't get matched up with the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs, they probably could have made a decent run in the playoffs. Oh, I forgot to mention, they lost Norman Powell, which was in the John Collins trade. And I'm going to smack my light real quick. Okay, that changed the light up there. Anyways, that's better than it flickering. And then they also lost Drew Eubanks, which I think was also in that trade. Or maybe he just was like going for agency. But overall, like we're looking at a starting lineup with the Clippers where they're looking like James Harden's at the point guard, Bradley Beal's shooting guard, Kawhi Leonard is the small forward, John Collins at the 4, and then Zubac at the 5. And then you have bench players like Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Brook Lopez. Like this is a good team. The only concern I have for this Clippers team is they're all very old. And if injuries get in the way, this team could very much be a really rough team because a lot of these guys are getting up there in age. So we'll see. I do think this might be a hot take, but I do think Bradley Beal is a slight decrease is a slight downgrade compared to Norman Powell just because Norman Powell is more of a scheme fit. He's going to be a guy that he's just going to be able to shoot the ball well. I feel like Bradley Beal has to have the ball in his hands a lot to be able to be successful. That's why he was so successful in Washington. And with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard on the team, he's not going to get the ball as much. So it might be the same kind of scenario as he was in Phoenix. But overall, I still do know Bradley Beal is a great scorer, and I think a lot of us do as well. But overall, I think the Clippers also had a great offseason. They could easily be a top 4 seed in the West, and then a top 5 team in overall power rankings. And we'll do those power rankings once we get closer to the regular season. But overall, the Nuggets and Clippers are my 2 biggest winners. Let me know down below who you think should have been on here or if you agree with me as well. But anyways, I just want to do one other little thing, and I just want to say shout out to the Portland Trailblazers. They have had an unbelievable offseason, and these last couple of seasons, they've made some really smart moves. But especially now, we've got news that Damian Lillard is returning home to Portland, where we all loved him in Portland, and he's coming back. He's coming back on a 3-year, $42 million contract, which will have a player option in the 2027-2028 season, which means in that offseason, basically 1 year. So he'll play 2 years in Portland, which one of them will be injured. So he'll play basically 1 year in Portland, and then the next year he can opt out of his contract if he decides he wants to go play for a championship contender team, or if he just wants to opt in and keep playing for Portland, which Portland could be contenders by then, who knows. And it's also got a no trade clause, so basically he can't get traded, kind of like the Bradley Beal stuff. So if the Portland Trailblazers want to get rid of him, which they won't do, they would have to buy him out, and basically how the Suns encountered this Bradley Beal situation. But overall, let's talk about that Damian Lillard trade where they traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks. Basically, I know this isn't like everything that they're getting, but basically every asset they got from this trade, they essentially got Drew Holiday, he's currently on the team still, actually now. They got Denny Avdia, which I think a lot of people are sleeping on Denny Avdia, a young and upcoming star. Like, I'm not even joking when I say this. Denny Avdia is actually like an incredible player, and I think he genuinely is going to turn a lot of heads this year. Keep an eye out for him. They also got Chumani Kamara in this deal from the Bucks, which he's also an excellent 3-and-D player who's going to be able to help them win. They got Robert Williams, which I know wasn't from the Bucks. It was basically from the Celtics, but that's when they traded Drew Holiday to the Celtics. So Robert Williams is on the team. He's probably going to be a big trade candidate where they trade him away, especially now that they have Donovan Clingan and Hans Yang, who's been balling out in the Summer League. If you haven't watched him, seriously, take a look at Hans Yang's tape. It's so fun watching him play, and I'm rooting for that kid. Like, he's going to be a league favorite, in my opinion. Just watch out for him. And then as far as picks go, the Portland Trailblazers also got a 2028, 2029, and 2030 first-round pick, and that 2028 and 2030 first-round pick are just swaps. But overall, the Portland Trailblazers, I know I have Bucks fans as family members, but like the Portland Trailblazers kind of finessed the Bucks. They basically said, here, go take care of Damian Lillard, go pay him a lot of money, go do what you think, go try to win a championship. They didn't end up doing that, and I think injuries had to play a big part of that. So, I mean, you can't blame it all on the Bucks. But overall, like, Damian Lillard basically got loaned to the Bucks for 2 years, and now he's back in Portland. He's going to recover with Portland for a season. He's back with his family, and they're only paying him, like, they're not paying him a crazy amount of money. And the Bucks are actually paying him more right now. They're paying him $22.5 million per year for the next 5 years because they had to waive and stretch him to try and acquire, and which they did successfully acquire, Miles Turner, which I think is a great addition. I think Miles Turner and Giannis Antetokounmpo are going to be an unbelievable duo. But overall, shout out to the Portland Trailblazers. I love what they're doing, and this helps me as a Bulls fan because the Bulls own the Portland Trailblazers first-round pick. It's lottery protected, so that means if the Portland Trailblazers somehow sneak into the playoffs these next, I think, 2 or 3 years, the Bulls own that pick. So, good stuff, Portland. But overall, that's going to be the... What in the world? Okay, trust me, that was not edited. I don't know what that was. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Sports Talk with JWock. I am your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and I cannot wait to see you all next week where I think we might be doing some NFL talk. We might have a guest. I'm not 100% sure. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can check out all my social media platforms down below in the description. Thank you all for tuning in. Have an amazing week. God bless.